Most people who can't stay asleep have tried everything. Melatonin, chamomile tea, no screens before bed, sleep podcasts, meditation apps, blackout curtains. They've Googled, why do I keep waking up at 3 a.m. so many times the algorithm thinks they're a night shift nurse. And still, every night, somewhere between 2 and 4 in the morning, their eyes open, wide awake. Sometimes the heart is pounding. Sometimes the mind starts running. Sometimes there's no reason at all. It just happens. Like clockwork. If that's you, I want you to understand something important before we go any further. You are not doing anything wrong. This is not a willpower problem. It is not stress you need to manage better. It is not a character flaw. What's happening inside your body at 3 a.m. is a biological event. A measurable, explainable, fixable biological event. And in 19 years of sleep medicine, the number one reason my patients don't fix it is simple. Nobody ever explained to them why it was happening. They were told to relax. They were given a pill. They were sent home. I'm Dr. Mercer. I've spent 19 years in sleep medicine, thousands of hours in sleep labs, reviewing polysomnography data, watching what happens inside the brain during the night. And here is what I know after all of those years. Insomnia is not a sleep problem. It is a signal. Your body is telling you something very specific. And once you understand what it's actually saying, the solution becomes remarkably clear. Today I'm going to walk you through 5 biological reasons your body wakes you at 3 a.m. 5 systems that most people have never heard of, each one causing a completely different kind of disruption. By the end of this video, you will understand your sleep in a way that most doctors never explain to you. Let's start with the one that surprises almost everyone. For decades, medicine approached insomnia like a light switch problem. Can't sleep? Flip the switch. Here's a pill. It forces your brain into sedation. You close your eyes. You open them 8 hours later. Problem solved. But here's what that model completely ignores. Sleep is not a switch. Sleep is a cascade. It's a precise sequence of biological events, hormones shifting, body temperature dropping, pressure building in specific neurotransmitter systems, that must happen in exactly the right order, at exactly the right time, in exactly the right environment. When the cascade works properly, you fall asleep easily, you stay asleep, and you wake up feeling restored. When any step in that cascade is disrupted, the whole sequence can fail. And the problem isn't always at the beginning. That's what most people miss. The disruption that wakes you at 3 a.m. often started 12 hours earlier. Sometimes it started with what you ate for dinner. Sometimes it started with a light coming from your phone at 9 p.m. Sometimes it started with a cup of coffee at 2 in the afternoon. No sleeping pill addresses the cascade. It just forces the switch. The underlying disruption keeps running while you're sedated. And the moment the pill wears off, which is often right around 2 or 3 in the morning, everything comes flooding back. I'm not saying medication has no place. There are clinical situations where it's appropriate. But if you have been waking at 3 a.m. for weeks, months, or years, and nothing has fixed it, I can tell you with confidence that nobody has addressed your cascade. Nobody has looked at what is actually disrupting your sleep architecture in the second half of the night. That changes today. I want to tell you what I've seen in the sleep lab, because I think it matters. When you bring someone into a sleep lab and attach EEG electrodes to their scalp and watch their brain activity through the night, you learn something that no questionnaire can teach you. A brain that can't stay asleep isn't calm and failing. It's hyperactive and trapped. The arousal system, the network in your brain responsible for keeping you alert, stays elevated even when the person believes they're sleeping. It's like an engine revving in neutral. The car isn't moving, but the engine won't idle down. And at 3 a.m., when specific biological signals converge, that engine finds its moment. I've reviewed this pattern in hundreds of patients. And what I found, consistently, is that the things keeping people awake are almost never what they suspected. They thought it was stress. They thought it was getting older. They thought it was just how their body worked now. In almost every case, there were specific, identifiable, correctable biological disruptions running in the background every single day that nobody had ever connected to their sleep. Here are the 5 most common ones. I see them every week in my clinic. Let me explain what is supposed to happen inside your body while you sleep. Your adrenal glands produce a hormone called cortisol, your primary alerting hormone. It follows a precise 24-hour rhythm. In a healthy sleeper, cortisol starts to gradually rise around 2 to 3 in the morning, peaks about 30 to 45 minutes after you intentionally wake up, and then declines steadily through the rest of the day. That gradual early morning rise is what helps you transition from sleep to wakefulness. It's supposed to be quiet. It's supposed to be smooth. But in people who experience chronic 3 a.m. waking, the research tells a different story. A 2024 study published in the journal Sleep, tracking 95 adults over 900 nights of EEG data, confirmed that higher pre-sleep cortisol directly predicted shorter total sleep time and lower sleep efficiency. And there's a second finding that matters even more. People with chronically poor sleep showed a flatter cortisol slope throughout the day. Their cortisol never properly declined in the evening, which means it was still elevated when they should have been winding down, and it was primed to spike far too early in the night. Think of it like a car alarm. Your neighbor is helpfully warming up your car at dawn, but they set the timer 4 hours early. So at 3 a.m., your cortisol alarm goes off, and your brain interprets elevated cortisol as a signal to be alert. You're lying in a dark, safe room, and your body is running a low-grade emergency response. You can't return to sleep because your chemistry won't allow it. What drives this early spike? Chronic stress that never gets a proper recovery period, late caffeine, and irregular sleep timing that disrupts the entire hormonal rhythm. Here is the fix. Morning sunlight. 10 minutes, outdoors, within 30 minutes of waking. No sunglasses. This is not a wellness cliché. It's a direct biological intervention. Morning light exposure anchors your cortisol to the correct time of day, which means it peaks in the morning when it should, and declines in the evening when it must. On a clear day, outdoor light delivers up to 100,000 lux. Your indoor lighting delivers about 300. That difference is the difference between a strong cortisol signal and a weak one. Most people begin to see improvement in the 3 a.m. waking within 1 to 2 weeks of consistent morning light. Now here is something most people don't know about how sleep is actually structured. Your night is divided in half. In the first half, roughly 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. if you sleep at 10, your brain spends most of its time in deep slow-wave sleep. This is your most restorative phase. It's when the brain does its repair work. Your body is essentially in deep recovery mode. After about 4 hours, the composition of your sleep changes fundamentally. From 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., your brain shifts almost entirely into REM-dominant cycles, lighter, more dream-active, more metabolically similar to waking. And here is the critical thing. During REM sleep, your body loses most of its ability to regulate its own temperature. It can't sweat or shiver efficiently. You are, neurologically speaking, at your most vulnerable to disruption. This is why a noise that wouldn't wake you at midnight can jog you completely awake at 3 a.m. This is why a slight rise in bedroom temperature that didn't affect you in the evening becomes intolerable at 3 a.m. The sleep phase itself has changed. The threshold for waking is much lower. You don't have a broken sleep system. You have a normal sleep system that has been placed in a vulnerable window by normal physiology, and something in your environment or biology is exploiting that window. Here is the fix. Alcohol is particularly destructive in this second half. As your liver metabolizes it in the early morning hours, typically 3 to 4 hours after consumption, you experience REM rebound, vivid dreams, restlessness, and waking. The research is consistent. For middle-of-the-night waking, the alcohol cutoff should be at minimum 3 to 4 hours before sleep. This next mechanism is the one that surprises my patients the most. Your brain runs on glucose. It needs a continuous supply, and it is extraordinarily sensitive to dips in blood sugar. While you sleep, your liver works to maintain stable blood glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis, releasing stored glucose to keep your brain fueled through the fast. Here is where it goes wrong. After a high-carbohydrate dinner, blood glucose spikes. Then, 4 to 6 hours later, it drops. Do the math. Dinner at 7 p.m., blood sugar crash around 1 to 3 a.m. Your brain detects falling fuel levels and activates a counter-regulatory response. Cortisol and adrenaline surge to mobilize glucose. That surge wakes you up. This is sometimes called the Somogyi effect, and it's particularly pronounced in people with insulin resistance, prediabetes, or metabolic syndrome. Alcohol makes it significantly worse because it blocks the liver's ability to release stored glucose, deepening the nocturnal trough. Think of it like a phone battery hitting 10% at 3 a.m. and sending you an urgent warning. Except the phone is your brain, and it wakes your entire body to deal with it. Here is the fix. Finish your last meal at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. If you consistently wake with a pounding heart, mild sweating, or hunger. Try a small low-glycemic protein snack 30 to 60 to initiate and maintain deep sleep. Your core body temperature must drop, not slightly, by approximately 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit from its bedtime level. Your body sheds this heat through dilated blood vessels in your hands and feet. Your core body temperature reaches its lowest point, what scientists call the nadir, between 2 and 4 in the morning. This nadir is not a coincidence. It is a carefully regulated biological event that happens during deep sleep. It is also your most thermally vulnerable window. A study analyzing nearly 4 million nights of wearable sleep data found that even modest increases in bedroom temperature, within what many people would consider a comfortable range, meaningfully increased nighttime awakenings. When the bedroom is too warm, your body cannot achieve the heat loss process it needs. And during REM sleep, when your thermoregulatory capacity is already compromised, any external warmth can trigger full wakefulness. Think of your brain like a laptop running a complex process. When the processor overheats, the system throttles down or shuts off. Your brain needs a cool environment to run its deep sleep processes. A warm bedroom is the blocked vent. Here is the fix. Set your thermostat to 65 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 18 to 19 Celsius. This is the most well-supported temperature range in sleep science, confirmed across multiple large studies. If you can't control the room temperature, a simple fan can reduce effective temperature by 3 to 5 degrees. And if you take a warm shower before bed, do it 90 minutes earlier than you normally would. The post-shower cooling effect actually promotes sleep onset, but only if there's enough time for your core temperature to drop. This final mechanism is the most insidious because it doesn't require any ongoing biological problem to maintain itself. It's self-sustaining. Here is what happens. The first few times you wake at 3 a.m., there's likely a legitimate trigger, a cortisol spike, a blood sugar drop, overheating, the transition to REM. Your brain wakes up, notes the time, and files it. You wake up at 3 a.m. again. Your brain files it again. After several weeks of this, something changes. Your brain begins to anticipate the waking. It starts preparing for arousal before the trigger even arrives. Dr. Foldveri Schaffer at the Cleveland Clinic describes this precisely. Your body becomes conditioned to wake at that time. The original biological cause may have been addressed, but the neural pattern remains. This is classical conditioning. Think of a dog that hears a bell every morning at 6 and starts waiting by the door at 5:55. Your brain has learned the pattern, and it's doing the exact same thing, rousing you in anticipation before the alarm even rings. This is why some people can eliminate every underlying biological trigger and still wake at 3 a.m. for weeks afterward. The pattern itself has become the problem. Here is the fix. When you wake at 3 a.m., do not check your phone. Not for the time, not for messages, nothing. The light is a cortisol stimulus. The content is a dopamine and stress stimulus. Both of them signal daytime to your nervous system and lock you into wakefulness. If you cannot return to sleep within approximately 20 minutes, get out of bed. Go to another room. Keep lights dim. Do something calm, quiet reading on paper, gentle stretching, slow breathing. Return to bed only when you feel genuinely sleepy again. This is stimulus control therapy, developed at the University of Arizona and endorsed by Stanford Healthcare and the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. It takes 2 to 4 weeks of consistent practice, and in those weeks, the first several nights may feel worse before they improve. That is the mechanism working. One more tool for the acute moment of waking, the 4-7-8 breathing method. Exhale completely. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 7. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 8. 3 to 4 cycles. The extended exhale activates your vagus nerve, lowers heart rate, and directly counters the cortisol adrenaline arousal response. Use it the moment you wake, before you check the time, before you look at your phone. I want to speak directly to 2 groups for a moment. If you are a woman in your 40s or 50s and your sleep suddenly fell apart, sleep that was fine for decades, I want you to hear this. This is not you aging poorly. This is not psychological. Perimenopause and menopause create measurable biological disruptions in every single mechanism we just covered. Declining estrogen directly reduces GABA activity. The brain's brake pedal becomes weaker. Falling progesterone affects your sleep architecture. Thermoregulation becomes unstable, which is why hot flashes wake you at exactly the most vulnerable time of night, the 2 to 4 a.m. thermal window. The mechanisms are identical. The hormonal driver is different. If you are in perimenopause and experiencing 3 a.m. waking for the first time in your life, this is not in your head. This is biochemistry. And if you work shift hours, nights, rotating schedules, early morning start times before 5, your circadian system is under a specific kind of assault that the standard advice does not address. Your cortisol curve, your temperature cycle, your melatonin timing, all of them are being chronically displaced. The principles here still apply, but the application requires building your sleep environment around your schedule rather than the clock on the wall. Both of these groups deserve a dedicated conversation. I'll cover each in depth in upcoming videos. I want to be direct with you now, not as a content creator, as a doctor. In 19 years of sleep medicine, what stays with me are not the dramatic cases. It's the quiet ones. The 42-year-old who had not slept through the night in 3 years and had convinced himself it was just how he was built now. He came in because his wife asked him to, not because he believed anything could be done. The mother of 2 who was told repeatedly that her exhaustion was just stress, that if she managed her anxiety better, the sleep would follow. She spent 2 years in therapy for a problem that was biochemical, not psychological. The retired man whose memory and focus were quietly deteriorating, and nobody had connected it to the fact that he had been waking at 3 a.m., lying awake for 2 hours, and returning to fragmented sleep for over 4 years. Chronic sleep deprivation is not something you adapt to. Research confirms that people who sleep fewer than 6 hours consistently develop measurable cognitive deficits, and they stop noticing them because impaired cognition impairs your ability to recognize impaired cognition. This is not a lifestyle inconvenience. It is a medical condition with biological causes and biological fixes. And you deserve to understand what those fixes actually are. Let me give you the recap. 5 mechanisms, 5 fixes. 1. Your cortisol alarm is going off too early. Fix it with 10 minutes of outdoor morning light. Within 30 minutes of waking, no sunglasses, every single morning. Results in 1 to 2 weeks. 2. Your second half sleep architecture is fragile, and alcohol is exploiting it. Alcohol cutoff at 3 to 4 hours before bed, minimum. The 3 a.m. fragmentation it causes is dose-dependent and reliable. 3. Your brain is triggering a low-fuel alarm. Move your last meal 2 to 3 hours before bed. If you wake hungry or with a racing heart, add a small protein and fat snack, almonds, Greek yogurt, 30 minutes before sleep. 4. Your bedroom is too warm. Thermostat to 65 degrees Fahrenheit tonight. If that's not possible, add a fan and lighter bedding. This single change can reduce nighttime awakenings within 3 to 5 days. 5. Your brain has learned to wake you. Break the conditioning. No phone at 3 a.m. If you're awake for more than 20 minutes, get out of bed, keep lights dim, return only when sleepy. Use 4-7-8 breathing the moment you wake, before you check anything. 2 to 4 weeks to break the pattern. Now, here is what I want you to do tonight. Just 3 things. Set your thermostat to 65 degrees before you go to bed. Write down everything on your mind before 9 p.m. Every open task, every worry, everything you're afraid you'll forget. Write it on paper and put it in a drawer. Research shows this single act, offloading open loops from working memory onto paper, significantly reduces the time it takes to fall asleep. Your brain releases the loops because it knows they're stored somewhere safe. And if you wake at 3 a.m. tonight, before you do anything else, before you check the time, before you reach for your phone, do 3 cycles of 4-7-8 breathing. Exhale. 4, 7, 8. That is your protocol for tonight. If you found this useful, share it. Someone in your life is lying awake right now.